Sup nerds, I'm Aaron.
I'm Wes.
Today we're taking a look at Firefly Adventures by Gale Force 9.
Shiny.
Shiny.
So Firefly Adventures is a scenario-based, fully co-op game. There is a variant where you can have an all versus one, but we haven't played that yet, where you are playing as the crew of the Serenity going on different missions set in the Firefly universe. So far, I haven't noticed any that directly correlate to the show or movie, but they all have that same Firefly feel to them, where you're rescuing a friend, or you're stealing cargo, or you don't know what you're stealing. You just got a job to go get something, and you get there, and then you find out what it is.
Absolutely. This game definitely feels like you are part of the crew, and you are, as you're taking on the roles of, Jane and Mal, and you just you feel like you're taking the actions they would take when you're playing this game. Like, it's definitely Firefly.
Absolutely, because each different character has different actions they can take, and they do kind of base those on what that character is good at and how they would act. So, Jane can run really fast, and he can fight really well, and, Mal can fight, and he can fly ships, and he can negotiate. He's kind of a well-balanced character. And Kaylee is, super far off on the mechanical side, and Wash is there for comic relief.
As you can see, there is a ton of stuff in this game. Even the box is part of the game. This is the main, the bottom of the box, but it's actually it's a board. You can see there's the squares inside, and it actually goes onto the map, and it can be used as a building. And then there's these crates that are buildings. They all fit in here. There's just so much stuff packed in this game. You couldn't even build an insert for this. You just take all these tokens and you throw them inside of the crates, and you can try and organize them, but
that is a mini negative for me, is the fact that the box is so full with the crates and the boards and everything like that again, there is no space for an insert. You have to go baggies, and there's not even enough little buildings to separate each of the tokens out in each thing. No, it's a mess every time you open the box, but the presence of the table makes it worth it.
Absolutely. When I first saw this, I was like, what? You didn't have to fold these at all? These all came in the box pre-folded? This is awesome. It's like a miniatures game with 3D elements, but, none of the extra cash that you have to spend on it and stuff.
Absolutely. Dust Warfare kind of was like that, where it was a mini game in a box and the mat folded out and it was grids that you went across. And this is one more step closer to a board game from a miniatures game. But it does have that very similar feel where you're moving all these minis and you have 3D structures and you have line of sight and you have cover. You can go inside the buildings and you're trying to break it through locked doors and all that fun stuff. But it is condensed into a tabletop game.
As Wes said, this is a scenario-based game where you can either play one standalone scenario or you can string them together in a long campaign where you collect money and buy new gear and you just continue to gather things throughout the campaign.
We haven't actually played it as a campaign yet, because honestly it's just we don't have time in our schedule for it, but you can definitely tell that this game wants to be played that way, because even when you complete a game, you don't just win or lose. You can make different amounts of money depending on how well you did or how fast you did things or how many people you killed or didn't kill. And so that's however well you did is how much actual money you make, which, if you're playing it as a one-off, you're like, oh, cool, we got great, or we did excellent, or whatever. But if you're playing it in a campaign, again, you have that much more money to buy equipment and be that better prepared for the next game.
When you're doing a one-off scenario or just starting a campaign, it is nice that you start out with some cash to buy your gear, and then later you can acquire better and better gear with the money you've made. So that way you don't feel like, if you don't do a campaign, you don't feel like you're missing out. You did get to buy some stuff.
And there is equipment that you can find in the game. There are loot crates in every scenario we played so far where you can top deck from the equipment deck and get some random crazy item. And the cool thing about the equipment is it all is stuff that if you are a fan of the show, you're going to recognize. You can get Mal's gun, you can get Vera, you can get a Hawaiian shirt that obviously belongs to Wash, you can get tight pants.
Yeah, you can get a lucky foot, you can just... There are generic things as well. You can just get a knife. You're like, oh man, that's not as cool.
That's not very exciting.
But it is cool when you do find free gear.
And it definitely does. You're like, oh, we got Vera? Well, we have to give that to Jane. Kaylee can't carry around Vera. That makes no sense at all.
I think the most interesting thing about this game, the thing that makes it stand out from every other game, is the real-time aspect that it puts into play. The actions you take cost time, and there's this time track that you're going to move around on, and you're going to move your, each player or each character has a little token that moves around on that track, and whenever you're the next on the track, you get to take your 2 actions, and your actions cost time, you move forward on the track, and then you have to wait until it's your turn again.
Mm-hmm. It is cool that it's not like your turn, your turn, your turn, your turn, but it's whoever's farthest back. So the actions you take can determine, like, what you're planning. Like, oh, I could do this, but then I'm not going to get a turn for this much time, and I'm kind of under fire. I need to get to cover, so I need to do this smaller timed action. Mm-hmm. And the fact that, like, the bad guys, when you add them to the board, because a lot of times there's bad guys on the board that don't notice you because you're acting casual until you do something heroic and flip your player board over to get to your heroic actions. They're not going to take notice of you because they just assume that you're just some varmint walking around. But when you add them to the board, they go on the back and they have the timing too, and so it's a tussle of who gets to go next. It's cool.
It is really interesting that when you're having opponents that you're fighting against as well, that they could be sitting on the board and you're like, so I could take this action and be very aggro and consume a lot of time, or I could take these small actions, land on top of them, and then look, it's my turn again. I can shoot at them this time and do that aggro thing I was just thinking about doing, and then they'll get to activate, or maybe I'll kill them and they don't get to activate.
Yeah. The other cool thing about the time track is the fact that at the end of every segment is the little star strip, and every time a character passes that strip, you roll one of the dice, and depending on what face it lands on, some random event happens, whether it be somebody notices you, or you get something good, or just all kinds of different stuff can happen depending on the scenario. So there are kind of mechanics that keep the game rolling and keep it interesting for you because you don't know what's coming next.
Depending on the length of the track and how close you are to the end, it's going to add pressure onto, oh god, we need to hurry up and finish this mission. You can't just dilly-daddle and walk all around and explore everything on the map because you have an objective, you need to complete it, and you have a certain amount of time.
Another cool mechanic that I know Aaron's a huge fan of is with the dice, there's not just a numbered D6, there are 2 special symbols on it. There's the sad, frowny face that I don't remember exactly what it is. It's the little blue, sad, crying face chick.
From the blue group.
It's in their secret message that triggers Summer. Anytime you roll it, it's a critical fail. No matter what else happens, you fail the check. Mm-hmm. And the other face
is the exploding dice mechanic. If you roll the Firefly symbol, you get to roll another dice. It counts as a 6, it's a critical hit, and you get to roll another dice. But you could roll that sad face and actually cancel out your good roll. So you kind of, there's a little bit of, pressing your luck if you want to keep going with that. But some things require such a high number to actually beat that skill check that you're like, okay, I need a 6. Oh, yes, I got a 6. Okay, roll again. Oh, another 6. Oh, yeah, I'm going to crush this,
And that is something I know that's one of Tom's least favorite things about Arcadia Quest is the fact that you can get the exploding dice and, do, a 1 damage hit. Or, I have 1 in 6 chance of actually making this hit. Oh, I did that. Oh, I'm just going to do infinite damage because I keep rolling exploding dice. But even he thought that this was a cool mechanic in this game, especially because you have that critical fail that even if you've rolled on your 6 exploding dice, which is kind of ridiculous in this game, you can lose it all because you press too hard.
Your player board, you actually have the double side, so you have your casual side, which has certain actions, and your heroic side has stronger actions, but you are now vulnerable to being attacked. And it's really nice that they actually included 2 different minis that have different poses and they're different colors until you paint them, that you can easily differentiate if you're, in your heroic state or if you're just acting casual on the board.
I did originally think that was really gimmicky. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Thanks. Way to just jack up your minis and jack up the price. But honestly, once I started playing, it was really nice, especially when you're determining who the bad guys are targeting and who's being shot at, because who's getting, the different people, it depends on how they act is who's acting heroic. And so it makes it really easy to see, oh, this is the nearest heroic person to this. Not okay, Kaylee's here, Kaylee's casual. Yeah. All right, Mal is here. Oh, he's heroic. But having those minis on the board really do help the game keep moving and keep the downtime away. And you get twice as many Firefly minis. So, and with the casual and heroic, especially in our first playthrough, I got to a point I typically don't like games you're creeping and sneaking around. The old Metal Gear Solid games, I was awful at, because I'm like, you want me to sneak around and not kill people? This is dumb. I just want to shoot people. Give me my Halo back. And this game has a similar feel to that. In our first game, it got to the point where, like, forget this. Jane has Vera. He's just going to kick the door open and just start shooting people. And then he got 4 damage, which he only has 5 health. So he's 1 point away from dying in a single turn. And I'm like, oh, that was a bad idea. So it is a game that definitely you have more of that Metal Gear Solid feel, where you're trying to do all of your actions as casually as you can, because it's not a game where the heroes are super overpowered and like one good guy can take out 10 bad guys or anything. Like, you're pretty evenly matched. Yeah. Especially because anyone who's in line inside of you. So a lot of times, if you're the only heroic character and 3 different cowboys can see you, it doesn't matter who else is around you. If you're the only one who's heroic, you're the only one who's getting shot at, and you're going to get obliterated.
In this game, taking the more casual pacifist route actually can score you better in the end game. For most of the scenarios we played, it's like, oh, how many bodies are laying around?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to take away from your score. Ooh, what, you weren't being very nice, and that's cool. Like, you can totally just run and gun through this, as long as, like Wes said, you can't just have one figure doing it. You need to kind of spread it out so everybody's, absorbing damage, and you're not wiping out one player, because then they're going to be laying on the ground just crawling, which is a cool other thing with the downed cards. It's like, okay, well, I'm down, now I have new actions. I can either crawl one space or I can heal myself, and it takes a lot of time to do that when you're hurt. So
yeah, this isn't the Serenity movie. Nobody dies. None of the main characters are going to die in this game.
I'm a leaf on the wind. Watch how
And I do think that does just kind of add to the thematics and stickiness to Firefly. You're trying to fly casual. You're trying to fly under the radar. Your biggest goal is not to be noticed by the Alliance. So you want to do this as little known as possible.
So you're probably wondering, what do we have bad to say about this game? Well, personally, we don't. Not too many things. I guess you could say the paper money is kind of a thing that some people aren't going to like. They'd rather have something a little thicker that's not going to get ruined. And
card money or token money. Or
which I heard there's a card expansion.
Yeah, so in Gale Force 9's original Firefly game, they do have a deck of cards you can buy to replace the paper money, because I haven't confirmed it yet, but this is identical, if not very similar, to the paper money in the Firefly game, the original Firefly game.
But if you aren't a fan of Firefly, you may just think this is a very watered down cooperative, game. Tom kind of felt that way. He doesn't really care about Firefly. He's never watched it.
I will say, he hasn't watched it yet.
Yeah.
And I think once he watches it, he's going to be a fan, because how could you watch Firefly and not be a fan?
Yeah, exactly. I guess I can kind of see that. Like, if you don't care about the lore at all, this is very similar to a lot of other cooperative scenario-based games.
I think that's the biggest thing Tom said, is besides the theme, it doesn't have a lot new to offer.
Personally, I think that adding that time track and adding the exploding dice is enough of a change for me. If I didn't already love Firefly, but I do like Firefly, so that's an extra plus for me.
I definitely consider myself a diehard Browncoat. I absolutely love the universe, and I love how much this game fits into that universe. Like, I know that, like, the original Firefly game, where it's kind of a pick up and deliver game, like, people said, oh, it's a lot like Firefly. This is like when the ship lands, how those actual missions go. It really feels like an episode of Firefly, especially because the stories and the scenario and all of that fit in really, really well. I will say that there is some definite clunkiness to the rules. There are some things where you have to figure out, like, I don't exactly know what happens in this situation. We're going to infer that this is how it goes. And I think that because, one, it's fully co-op, I'll allow that. Because it's not like, oh, well, we're going to vote in favor of Aaron, and he's going to win now because this thing happened and we decided that he would win. It's fully co-op, so you can decide if we're getting absolutely crushed, we can say, yeah, no, we totally get the benefit. Or if we're crushing, be like, no, maybe they probably do shoot me there. Yeah, that probably is how it happens. And again, if you're a fan of the show and you're like understand like the feel of the show, that's kind of how we make our determinations of like, oh, I feel like the feel of the show and all the things that would happen, this is kind of what would happen in this situation.
So I absolutely love this game. I think it's a great cooperative scenario-based game. And though there are only 5 scenarios in this base game, there are more that you can download online, and there are more coming with the expansions in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you're getting a lot for your money in this game. There is, tons of minis, lots of dice, lots of cardboard, lots of table presents. Like, it's just a beautiful game, and I don't think that they, I don't think they left anything out. Like, there's everything in here you need. There's tons of wound tokens and intel tokens and objective tokens, just tokens galore. I feel that if you like Firefly, this is a game that you need. This is definitely a fun game that you're going to enjoy. And even if, you only have the 5 scenarios, you could play them over and over and try and, get better at them, because things are still randomized in them, and things aren't always going to be the same. Some things come up to the roll of the dice. You could just have bad rolls, or the first time you play, you just have a really bad strategy, and you go in guns a-blaze, and you realize, okay, next time we play this, let's try and take the slow route, but maybe you run out of time that time. You're like, okay, we got to try this again,
So I totally agree that even though there's only 5 scenarios in the base game, those 5 scenarios are going to give you a lot of play, or you can go to Gale Force 9 and download new scenarios, or I'm sure that there are plenty of Browncoats out there that are going to be writing their own scenarios on Board Game Geek, so go ahead and keep an eye out there and maybe get some from there. Or there's at least 2 expansions coming out, so you definitely need to grab those, because you need to get Simon and River, and you need to get Boken and Nara, because, again, like, the ship's not complete without them. We all know that when Inara left, something was just missing from the ship. So go get her. Go buy her. Oh, she's a companion, so you do kind of get to buy her.
This game just makes me want to go back and watch the show again.
You don't have this on like a monthly rotation? I definitely think that Firefly Adventures is the quintessential game for Browncoats out there. If you're a fan of Firefly, if you kind of like Firefly, if you think you might watch Firefly one day, this is a game that you need to pick up, because it really is Firefly in a box. And if any of that sounds good to you, we're going to have a purchase link in the description box down below. I cannot stress enough how much I think you need to get yourself a copy.
While you're down there, why don't you tell us who your favorite character in the show is, and subscribe to our channel so you'll never be bored.
It's Kaylee.
It's Kaylee?
It's Kaylee. How could it not be Kaylee? Did I say Summer earlier? I said Summer and Simon. It's River and Simon. Summer is your actual name. Jane, a man they call Jane. He robbed from the rich and he gave to the poor. Stood up for the man and he gave them what for. Our love for him now ain't hard to explain. The hero of Canton, man they call me.
Demonetized.